Hey everyone, and welcome to Autism Awakening, the podcast that helps you help your child with autism. My name is Dr. Jared Scower, and I've been an international biomedical autism doctor for 23 years. And this podcast is to help you, the parents, the grandparents, the health professionals, the therapists, the teachers, anyone who has a child with autism in their life. This podcast is to help walk you through the medical issues of autism and how to help your child improve their language, their behavior, their sleep, medical issues, help them on their road to being the best person that they can be. Now, we record our podcast live on our social media page every Thursday at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you ever want to be part of a live recording of a podcast, come on down. Currently, we're on our Facebook Spectrum Awakening page recording this. So you can come down and ask live questions. We usually have an hour podcast, and we take the first half hour and talk about our topic and our science. And then the last half hour is Q&A. So we can get your live questions answered. So come on down and take a part of our live podcast. Now, for those of you listening live today, my apologies. I'm starting a little bit late. Had patients this morning. We kind of ran late walking through them. We had a lot of genetic testing today, a lot of genetic analysis, and diagnosed one child with a genetic disorder. And we saw another child had no genetic issues, but definitely had an immune response, which we had testing for, to a certain needle that they got when they were 12 months old. So it was kind of an exciting day, but a little late on getting onto the podcast for those of you listening live. But here we are, and what we wanted to talk about today, I actually got some great ideas. A lot of you will send podcast ideas and say, hey, I want to hear about this, I want to hear about that, I want to hear about the other thing. So we're going to do one of those today because what we normally do for the first part of the year, I start every calendar year, January 1, and we kind of have like 3 or 4 months of podcasts that walk you through all the medical issues of autism. And so this is where, this is kind of what we're wrapping up now. And so I was trying to get some other podcast ideas. So our podcast today is basically going to be talking about things that you may see online, things that you may hear about on social media, friends, families, whatever, and jump in and do it. But it really kind of backfires, and you don't get, geez, I hear all these people are doing X, Y, Z, and it's not working for my kid. Why did I jump in there? I want to kind of give you a guideline of, hey, here's are things that you should do first. And here are things that, geez, I wouldn't do that first, because you're going to have side effects. You're going to have something not go well with it probably. And those are things that we need to do later in the process. Okay. Because autism is a very complicated medical condition. Okay. There's a lot of moving parts. There's changes in the brain. There's changes to the immune system, the mitochondria. There's toxic issues. There could be genetic issues. There's hormone changes. There's nutritional deficiencies. Did I mention mitochondria? I forget. So there's a lot of moving parts, and, we want to make sure we treat these in an order that work best. Okay. So this is where, hey, you can see things online and you can read science, but it's really helpful to work with somebody has the experience to know what these different treatments will do or side effects they'll have. So that's kind of the goal of this podcast. It's kind of an overarching, hey, here's are things that I hear about, read about. These are things that I get questions on from you guys, from my patients, etc. So I'm just going to kind of go in totally random order. There's no method to this madness right now. But I wanted to kind of go through some highlights. I would say the first thing, let's go with the most popular thing. Most popular thing this past year was obviously leucovorin and folinic acid. Got a lot of popularity. We heard a lot about it in the news, which I think is great. That awareness matters. Whatever that message is, whoever it comes from, people may have problems with, but the message that there's a potential treatment and the awareness of that and the exposure of that, I think, is great. All right. So a lot of people are going to their doctors and asking for leucovorin. A lot of people are going and getting generic folinic acid. Some things to watch out for. If you are doing that first off, all right, I would really warn you about dose. Okay. Because anything and everything has side effects, people. All right. It's anything and everything can have side effects. So you want to make sure, can my child tolerate this stuff? Because the leucovorin, and for those of you not familiar, leucovorin is a pharmaceutical form of the vitamin folinic acid. Okay. And this was FDA approved back in the 50s. So folinic acid, the vitamin, been around for a long time. The brand name leucovorin, they're the same thing, but it's like ibuprofen and Advil kind of thing. Same stuff, different manufacturer. So that got really popular, and the research of Dr. Fry, who's great, I love Dr. Fry. His research talks about a dosing protocol, which is 2 milligrams per kilogram, and it talks about a max dose of 50 milligrams a day. So a lot of people are going to their docs and saying, hey, I want leucovorin, or they get it online, and then they go for that top dose. They're like, hey, I want that 50 milligrams a day. I want that, 2 milligrams per kilogram or whatever, right? And when you start out on that dose, you're going to have a lot of higher risk for side effects, okay? So that's what I want to warn you guys about. If you're doing this, and if you're like, hey, I just heard about this stuff and I want to help my kid, which is great. I love that excitement and motivation. Don't start at the high dose, okay? Start at a low dose and work your way up slowly. In fact, I think that's probably a good thing for anything that we do, whether it's medication, whether it's vitamin supplements, okay? Start low, watch the effect, and just kind of slowly increase, all right? So that's my first warning, and that's why I really like our folinic acid, supplements that we have. We currently are the largest manufacturer of generic folinic acid in the country, which is great. I love getting good quality stuff out to you guys. We make it as a powder, all right? And I love making it as a powder because you can easily titrate the dose, all right? If you want to give a small dose, you use a little bit. If you want to give more, you give more. But it's not like a pill of leucovorin where, I got a 15 milligram pill and that's what I got, and I can cut it up and stuff. But the powder is really easy to adjust doses. So that would be my first thing. Everybody, a lot of people excited about leucovorin, excited about folinic acid, low dose first, okay? Because again, side effects to this stuff are very common. I'd say 50% of my kids have side effects to folinic acid and leucovorin. So, and those side effects are behavioral. They're hyperactivity, there's sleep problems, sometimes there's anger, irritability. That's the side effect. So start low, work your way up. All right. The next thing that I think is pretty popular lately is different types of pro and prebiotics, okay? And this gained a lot of popularity probably like 10, 15 years ago. There was another doc out in there, I think he's in Arizona, that wrote a book talking about his protocol. And his protocol is basically certain oils and certain prebiotics like inulin, okay? And I've talked to many, many people who have tried this stuff and had a lot of side effects and reverse reactions. Those side effects and reverse reactions were stomach pain. And with that, stomach pain causes a lot of behavior problems and a lot of bowel issues. So if you have ever jumped on gut treatments, okay, whether that be probiotics, whether it be using, different oils like olive oil and omega-3s, whether that's using prebiotics like inulin, if you've ever used those gut treatments and gotten side effects, again, side effect can be behavioral, side effects can be stomach pain, your child's crying, there's bowel changes, that is pretty common, okay? And it's pretty common because those treatments can have big effects, but if your child's not prepared for it, it's going to feel bad. It's going to hurt, all right? So before you launch into any of those kind of gut treatments right off, and again, things like probiotics are really common. I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to that say, hey, I put my kid on probiotics and it got worse. I hear that all the time, right? The first thing you have to do, number one, and this is across the board for anybody who has a child on the spectrum, it's going to sound really simple, but trust me, make sure they're pooping daily, all right? We talk about this all the time. You want to make sure your child is pooping everything out every day, all right? I don't want to skip days. I don't want to be pooping once a week. I don't want little piles, okay? A little pile is not a complete poop. Trust me. I remember when my daughter was 3 years old and we're potty training, and her poop is so big it's popping out of the water. And I'm like, where does a 3-year-old keep this stuff, right? Poops should be big and large. They should be big brown logs, right? So that is our goal. Now, if you're still wearing diapers, you're not going to get a big brown log because your child sits in it and it turns into a big brown pile. That's fine. It's all about volume, okay? I want to get it all out. If your child poops multiple times a day, but they're just little piles of poop, odds are they're extremely constipated. Because constipation can look two ways. It can look like, little rabbit pellets, like Cocoa Puffs, or it can look like these small piles. Because what happens is if the poop's stuck in your colon, right, the body tries to get it out by spraying it, like power washes it. So it sends all this water in there and it sloughs off a little bit of the poop and you get this pile, but you never get the whole thing out, right? So if you aren't getting rid of your poop, you aren't getting rid of anything that you're trying to fix when you're taking prebiotics, probiotics, these kind of oils, right? That stuff, whatever effect that is having, is the effect isn't getting out of the body. And usually the effect is killing infections. That's what we want. If you've got yeast infections, you got bacterial infections, you got mold infections, you got to kill those guys, but then they need to leave and there's one exit, right? So number one, pooping. All right. So then you can kind of go into those gut treatments. Also, let me say this. Those gut treatments do not contain strong items to kill infections, okay? Probiotics aren't really strong enough to kill infections, all right? Prebiotics aren't going to kill infections. You want to take substances that will kill infections if you have them. So things like colloidal silver and grapefruit seed extract, or pharmaceutically like nystatin or diflucan or antibiotics or antiparasite meds, those will kill infections, right? So if you're using just like probiotics, prebiotics, and oils and you're getting these side effects, it means you've probably got a decent gut infection. And I would use stronger treatments. Maybe you want to get a stool test like we have on our website. Maybe you want to use something like our yeast mold bundle or colloidal silver or grapefruit seed extract and the binder, right? If you're having side effects from gut treatments, you've got a bigger gut problem than you think, okay? So I think that's my second big kind of, hey, people are already jumping on, hey, I want my probiotics and I want to take some inulin. I heard about that kind of thing. So that's the second thing to look for. All right, so we talked about leucovorin, very popular, start with low dose. We talked about GI treatments seemingly backfire. When they backfire, you got a bigger problem than you think. All right, let's see. What can I talk about next? Detox. Let's talk about detox, all right? So a lot of people will get detox supplements, and you will hear a lot online, people saying, hey, my kid has all these heavy metals. I'm worried about mercury. I'm worried about aluminum. I've been getting a lot of heavy metal tests back on my patients with elevated levels of tungsten, okay? So you've got these toxins, and you've got glyphosates and microplastics and all sorts of things. And sure, you want to get those out of your child, right? And so you hear about all these detox supplements, and maybe you try them, and it backfires. And you're like, why is this backfiring, right? Again, very similar to the gut treatments, all right? When we're detoxing, you take a detox supplement and it starts to grab toxins so we can get it out of your body, but it's got to get out of your body. And this is where we go back to the constipation. This is where we go back to the gut health. And if you're trying to get rid of bad things, you've got to make sure the exit door is open. You've got to make sure you're pooping. Everything, every day, all right? So if you've ever gone on detox supplements and they backfired, again, it just means you've got to work on pooping. You've got to work on getting your gut healthy so it's moving everything out every day. All right. Let's see. What can we talk about next? Here's a question we get a lot of. We get a lot of questions about stem cells, okay? Stem cells are very popular. You hear a lot about them online, and they're very expensive. And I think that is one of the alluring things about stem cells is that, shoot, it's really hard to get stem cell treatment here in the US. You've got to fly to another country and pay a lot of money to get this done. That's very alluring that it must be effective, okay? It's so effective, it's not allowed here in the US. It's too fringe, and it's super expensive, so it's got to work, right? And you hear about that with their propaganda and their marketing. I have never seen stem cell treatments make any major improvements in our kids. Mild improvements, I hear parents talk about more eye contact, right? But some of those improvements don't stay. You may have it for a couple months and it goes away, right? So the vast majority, if not all of my patients who've done stem cells, again, don't have any lasting improvements. I also hear this from my colleagues, all right? I talk about a group, TACA, a lot. TACA is wonderful. They're the biggest family support group for people who have children with autism. And I lecture at their conference and have been for almost 10 years now. And we have this Q&A panel of physicians in the evening. And so, you get some really good autism docs up on that panel. And we always hear about stem cells. People ask about stem cells. Every time we get a stem cell question, every single one of my colleagues says the same thing as I do. We have never seen any of our patients have any major lasting improvements. Okay. So that's it. I hate to see people waste massive amounts of money. I mean, you go to Panama and it's 20 grand. I heard in other places like 30 grand. That's one thing that I think the marketing and the propaganda is very controlled by those organizations. And, that's how they get people to be interested in it. So, all right, what else am I trying to think of things that you hear about a lot that are popular? See what else is popular. The broccoli stuff is popular, which is great. I don't think there's any downsides to those. I think the other thing to think about is order. What type of order do we want for these treatments for our kids? And I think the short answer is I've written this down. And I want you to go download. We have free ebooks on our website. I want you to go to our website, spectrumawakening.com. Download the free ebooks. You add them to your cart, you check out, and then you'll get an email and you can download them. But they're free. Those are set up in this order, the order that I work with my patients, the order that I find is best working with our kids. Okay. Number one, like I talked about, is pooping. Okay. You poop this stuff out. You got to get your pooping great. Next, if your child has behavior issues, okay, then you work on the gut and you work on infections because that is usually what causes the behavior problems. Then we can start getting into language. We can start getting into the folinic acid. We can start getting into brain chemistry balancing, which helps a lot of my kids. And after that, then you've got some other things that can kind of be done in any order, whether that's mitochondrial support, whether that's hormone imbalancing, autoimmune issues, if you've got pandas or pans kind of thing, detoxification, genetic analysis. Those are all kind of spun together as, hey, we can do these in any order after we've looked at these things, after we've done the gut, after we've looked at behaviors, after we've looked at constipation, after we've done the folinic and the the brain chemistry balancing. So that's kind of the order I would do things in. I've seen a couple comments of people talking about other things that are popular, and I'll give you my honest opinion of them. One is red light therapy. Somebody must be selling red light therapy the past 6-12 months because I get a lot of questions on it. Again, this is another treatment where none of my patients have done it and said, hey, I love this stuff. You should get other people to do it. Okay. And when you tell that to me, I listen. I've learned a lot I've learned most from my families. And they'll say, hey, I did this and it worked, and I did this and it was horrible. And you start hearing more and more comments from more and more families about that, and you start investigating things. So the red light therapy, again, I don't have a single patient that I can remember that's done it and said, hey, yeah, this is helpful. Another thing is a group called Brain Balance. And I'll be a little selective for this answer. I used to work, I consulted for Brain Balance way back in the day. This is before I was even married, like 20 years ago. I was working for Brain Balance when Dr. Melillo owned it. And I would interpret all of their lab tests. They would be doing organic acid testing on their kids. And so I would interpret those tests and create nutritional protocols and supplement protocols for their patients. So I'm pretty familiar with Brain Balance and know a lot of people who've gone through it. I think my concern with Brain Balance, and let me also kind of open the door behind it, that the guy who created Brain Balance, he's a chiropractor on Long Island. He created it, he franchised it, and then he sold it. And the group he sold it to then kicked him out. So he no longer has kind of any input on how to do things and how I've researched things to help. So I think a lot of Brain Balance has to do with the physical exercises that they have the children do. One of my concerns with it is the price. Okay, it's a franchise and it's owned by a for-profit organization. I think the price is probably more than it should be. And that's a concern of mine for a lot of these things that you hear about for autism. In fact, I just heard of some group in Texas that will charge you a few $100s a month to get a leucovorin prescription. And then you got to pay for the leucovorin on top of that. So it's like a concierge. You're going to be paying thousands of dollars a year just to get a script, right? And I don't really agree with that ethically, especially when you can buy it over the counter cheaper than the concierge price, right? So I'm always hesitant about, the pricing of this stuff for people who are you trying to help or are you just trying to make a buck? So the brain balance, I'm worried about the cost. What you can do if you're interested is to do the exercises, right? And Dr. Malillo wrote a book. It's called Disconnected Kids. I think I have it somewhere. Not sure exactly where. Is this it? No, I got it somewhere. That book has the exercises. You can get that book and try the exercises at home and see if that helps. I think that's a good first step. And again, my patients who have gone through brain balance, it's kind of hit or miss. Some noticed some decent improvements. Some didn't. Again, my major concern is the price point on it when you could do these exercises at home, right? And that's, kind of similar to what we do. Obviously, we have a clinic and we have a telemedicine clinic, and I help patients through that. But I also want to provide answers for those who don't want to be a patient. So this is why we have lab tests on our website. You can order your own lab test. We've got the supplements available to anybody, not just our patients. So we want to make sure we're offering as much as we can. All right, what else? Let me see if there's any other comments on people thinking about other things that didn't cross my mind. All right, nothing that's popping up. So if you can think of anything that you hear about, that's pretty popular in the autism world, I can always kind of answer that. But I think though there's some pretty common things that are out there and they're marketed a lot, so you hear them online, social media, that you may want to do first or may not, and what happens if you have a bad effect from it. I think the other thing that I just thought about would be vitamin B12 shots. Okay, B12 shots, man, we were using that back in the Dan days, a long time ago. Mandy said diet, that's a good one. So yeah, B12 shots, again, hit or miss. You can have language from them, but I think that's pretty rare. I think it's like 10 to 20% of kids. But I think the risk of the hyperactive side effects are pretty common. We got a couple other great ones here. Let me run through this. All right. Another common one is diet. All right. Diet. Here's my comment on diet. If you want to do diet first, go for it. Okay. You can do diet at any time. All right. You never know if diet's going to help until you try it. And when you try it, it must be 100%. There's no, hey, we have pizza on Fridays. Nah. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it 100%. All right. And let me tell you a story. I tell this story a lot, so I'll tell it again. Had a patient a long time ago, what is this? Probably back in 2007. He was 3 years old. He was nonverbal. Parents wanted to do gluten-free. Great. Let's do gluten-free. He did gluten-free for 1 month and he started talking. He went from nonverbal to functional language within a month on gluten-free. Pretty darn cool, right? So, hey, they were motivated. Keep doing gluten-free. Grandma and Grandpa one day took him to McDonald's. Now, Grandma and Grandpa were good. They said, hey, what's gluten-free at McDonald's? They said, French fries. Hey, potatoes. Potatoes don't have gluten. Let's do it. Unfortunately, whatever coating and flavoring McDonald's had at the time, maybe they still do, I don't know, had gluten in it. So the child ate gluten because it was on the fry, stopped talking that day. And it took an entire month of gluten-free to get that language back. All right? So just one slip up can reset you back to day one, back to ground zero. So if you're going to do diet, it has to be 100%. And yes, it's hard. I get it. Okay? We did gluten-free, dairy-free with our daughter. I understand. It's a lot. But you never know the benefits till you do it. Some people, miraculous changes. Language, behavior, mental processing, just amazing. Other people, nothing. I mean, I've talked to families that say, we did gluten-free, dairy-free for 2 years and nothing. That happens. Here's what I'll tell you. If you want to do diet, try gluten-free and or dairy-free or both 100% for 2 months. Okay? If after 2 months you start seeing improvements, keep it up. You do it for 2 months, you don't see anything, I doubt you're gonna. Okay? But you gotta be 100%, guys. All right. Next, Mary Ellis said frequencies. I don't know what you're suggesting, but I feel like it's sound therapy, the resonance of sound and how that can help. This is something I don't know a lot about, but I'm very intrigued about I'm very intrigued because there's a lot of research on sound therapies in general, not autism specific, but in general. And I do wonder what that would do. It's really intriguing. So I want to learn more about it. Kayla mentioned something. I'm glad you did. HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So let me say two things about it. There's different quality of hyperbaric treatments. Okay, the best is a hard chamber. It's a metallic chamber with O2 tanks. That is top of the line. Okay. Then they have these things that are soft chambers that you can either attach an oxygen tank or a concentrator. I had a soft chamber in my office for a few years. We ran people through it all the time. We took insurance, so people would come in with a $20 copay and get an hour-long HBOT treatment. So, man, we were running this thing. I didn't see a gosh darn improvement with any of our kids, except those with cerebral palsy, which is pretty rare. But we had a soft chamber with a concentrator. We didn't have a hard chamber with an O2 tank. So if you're going to do it, you want a hard chamber, you want an O2 tank, do not use a soft chamber. I don't think you get the benefits. So there you go. That's hyperbaric. And again, the major, how do I say this appropriately? I am familiar with the business owners of one of the major hyperbaric companies, and I would not trust them as far as I could throw them. I won't say which company it is. Bella says FMT, fecal microbial transplant, putting somebody else's poop in your child's butt. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I think the potential for healing, not just with autism, but gastrointestinal disease like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, I think it's incredible. Getting somebody to do it and finding it, that's a different question. But huge fan of FMT. Hey, Janine from Jersey, live shout out. Mary's asked a couple times about the L179 trial. I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to have to look it up. Craniosacral and neurofeedback. Good questions. I think it depends on the provider. I had a guy in my office before COVID who did neurofeedback. He wasn't very good at it, and he didn't see the improvements in the kids. Craniosacral, again, very, very dependent on the practitioner. And one of the first places I practiced had a really good craniosacral lady. She'd been doing this forever. She was in her 70s when I worked with her. Incredible changes. So I think that's very therapist dependent. All right. MERT. Lisi have asked about MERT therapy. Yeah, you may get some emotional changes, but my patients who have done MERT haven't had anything amazing. All right. And we talked about diets. So let me start there. Let me stop there. I think that's kind of a good review of kind of the common things you hear about online, and maybe things that are helpful, aren't helpful, some things that you may want to do later and not first off because of side effects. So I hope that kind of helps, especially people who are new to the whole biomedical thing. So, but again, if you are new to this biomedical stuff or new to Spectrum Awakening, I highly recommend downloading our free ebooks. Okay, go to our website, download those. All right, let's get to our live questions. Oh, coupon of the weekend. Hold on. Coupon of the weekend is, there you go, Autism 20. Autism 20 will get you 20% off any of our supplements, any of our lab tests. That expires April 26th, 2026. All right, let's get to some of our live questions, as many as we have time for. All right, live shout out to Adriana. Hello. Jin. Hey, Doc, hope you're well. I have a question. My son laughs and cries for no reason, jumping on the couch, puts things in his mouth, grinds his teeth. Gut infection. Right there. Anybody with those symptoms, gut infection. I've been looking at detox, but not sure if I should do heavy metal or yeast and mold. My son won't take tablets. Yes, sounds like a gut infection. What you want to do is definitely the binder and the colloidal silver. Okay, the biofilm supplement is good and helpful, but it tastes bad. But the gut binder tastes good and the colloidal silver is tasteless. Start there. Somebody asked about Trudose. I don't know anyone who's benefit from it. I've had it done personally. I didn't feel a thing. Autumn, do you know anything about the use of dihexa for autism? I've never heard of it. Aliona, my son has low serotonin and low dopamine. What would be better, power and focus or super serotonin and attention on the double? Power and focus. Start there, and then you can add on super serotonin and attention on the double to see if that also helps, but start with the power and focus. Kristen, what are certain things that can be causing low iron? Bleeding, honestly. I mean, it's really hard to get low iron without bleeding out. I would talk to your doctor about getting a blood test in the poop. You can check your poop for blood. I would take a look at that. Aliona, can I give multispectrum complete methylfolate power focused Panda Bear and NAC together? Yes, you can. Hopefully all in the morning. Adriana, the MTHFR product, which we have, which is our, I believe, Adriana, you're using our methylfolate, or the Belicious, is unbelievable. Francesco, it has taken it for 2 weeks with super serotonin and huge improvements in speech. Adriana, this is great. Thank you. I'm glad Francesco is improving. I love that his language is getting better, and I love that you're sharing the story. These are the stories we need to share, guys. We need to tell all these other families who don't know there's help and there's hope for their kids about what happens with your child. So the serotonin, and I don't know if it's the Belicious or the methylfolate, but it's basically a methylfolate supplement. Those two are helping your child's language. It can happen, guys. It does. We do it all the time. Amon, good news. Iman, I finally heard back from the genetic lab and have ordered the parent test kits for you. It was really, really, really hard getting through to the lab, but it's done. It's on its way. So his child's on folinic acid at 20 milligrams, and you want to use methylfolate. What would be the right dose? So methylfolate, like this stuff here, right, and folinic acid, this stuff here, the doses are equal in effect. So if you're using 20 milligrams of folinic, you can drop down to 15 milligrams of folinic and add 5 milligrams of methylfolate. So the combined is still 20. So you can alter the ratios equally. All right. Tracy, where can I find the recordings of your Facebook Lives? Well, Facebook has started taking these things off after a month. I don't think they just want to pay for the storage in the cloud. So you can go to Podcast World, like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and listen to our podcast there. We should have them all there. We put some of them on our YouTube channel. A lot get taken down from YouTube because, we say things that are controversial, and, YouTube's owned by Google, that's owned by Pharma. So they want to make sure that their stuff goes to the top. But just, go to Podcast World. I think we're on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, maybe. Ramona, after starting with 5 milligrams of methylfolate and the 15 milligrams of folinic acid, just like I mentioned before, for 1 week, and then we increased to 10 milligrams of each, their child shows improvements but has sleep issues. All right, so the sleep issues are a side effect of the folinic acid, the leucovorin, the methylfolate. I want you to add anger management. So we have a product called Anger Management that I formulated to reduce the side effects of these things. If you are taking anger management, just add more, especially before bed. Aliona, can I give probiotics and Espelarity with a snack? Yep. Aliona, would the probiotic and Espelarity survive stomach acid if I open the capsule? Yes, but take with food. Most capsules dissolve in the stomach, so you know. Okay, so if you're like, oh, the stomach acid in a capsule, it's the capsule would melt in your mouth. If you left it in your mouth for long enough, just your saliva would dissolve it. So that thing is gone in the stomach acid. Just take with food. Aliona, since starting the Candida treatment, he's grinding his teeth and sucking on his shirt. Why? He's having die-off reactions. Make sure he's pooping and add more binder. Ramona, what dose of B12 do you recommend for a 20 kilogram child taking folinic acid? It depends on their response. I think 250 micrograms is decent. You might be able to go up to 1,000 micrograms, which is 1 milligram, but I don't think you need any more than that. Aliona, my child's doing much better on our multi-spectrum complete. Should I switch him to methylfolate? Yeah, add the methylfolate, see what happens. But I'm glad you're using our multi. I love our multi. I just made it a year and a half ago, and I was so hesitant on making a multivitamin because there's so many multis. Why would I have one when there's so many on the market? But there wasn't a great one on the market. I wanted a great one. So we've got a great one. It's got folinic acid. It's got adenosylcobalamin. It's got the right forms of the vitamins. It's got the minerals in it. It's got carnitine and cofactors. It's got over 30 ingredients. So I'm proud of what we've made. I think our multi is really good. Can you make a multi without iron? We'll consider it. It would be a lot to make. We got to make a lot of this a lot. But I hear you. Some people don't want iron. We have a very low amount of iron in it, but there is iron. Selma, I sent a message via the portal, but haven't heard back yet. Yeah, resend it anyway. I'll take a look. I'm catching up on my messages in my labs. I'm not doing too bad. We're getting there. Could you try to make ATP tablets in capsule or powder? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We do have some of the ATP in our Mitomax, but I wonder if I had it stand alone, if it would work. It's not a bad idea at all. Hold on. What if I did that with carnitine and B2? Sorry, we're making a formula. Live. ATP, carnitine, and B2. Sounds like a great powder. All right, thank you. Adriana, Multispectrum Complete is a lifesaver because my son doesn't eat much, so it's saving us. I'm glad it's helping and working. Janine, gene therapy is one of the things people want to do first. However, healing the gut, getting a child healthy first is important. 100%. Listen to Janine. She's a Taka mom. She knows her stuff. Adriana, I ordered 4 serotonin and 4 methylfolate and 2 multispectrum. Awesome. Kristen, best time of day to take the gut immune axis powder. I would take it with food, but any type of day. It's really an anti-inflammatory for the gut and immune support. Brianna, what's your opinion on galantamine and memantine prescriptions? I don't have a lot of patients on those, so I don't really have much experience. So I don't know. Live shout out to Diane. Hi, Diane. Wanda, my child's been on Mitomax for 6 weeks. He's still all over the place and not focusing at all. Well, I think we need to look at the gut then, Wanda. You may have a gut infection. So try either our yeast mold bundle or get a stool test, but go with that. Darlinetta, can B12, B6, and leucovorin be taken at the same time? Yeah, sure. Mary was wondering about your thoughts on ABA. Here's ABA. I haven't done a live on ABA because I'm not an ABA therapist. But what I hear from my patients is it's pretty hit or miss. I have some patients who say, oh, I do ABA and we're getting great stuff, and I really like it. And then I get some people be like, ABA doesn't do a gosh darn thing for me. So I think it's very individual. I think it's individual on how the child responds to it, whether the child is present enough to be engaged to learn. If you've got a kid who's not paying attention, no therapy is going to do anything, right? I think it also matters on the quality of the therapist, right? You got somebody who's good, and you're going to get better results than somebody who's bad. So I think it depends on the therapist, and I think it depends on, is your child ready to receive it? If it's a good therapist and your child's ready to receive it, more is better, okay? It frustrates me so much when I hear parents say, oh yeah, we do speech therapy. Our school gives us an hour a week. That ain't much, guys. That ain't much at all. More is better when it's working. All right, it's in my eye. All right. Brianna, how long do you think you should continue speech therapy if you've seen 0 progress? Good question, Brianna. Here's what I'd say. 6 months, no change. Why are you doing it? Is it going to magically work one day? Now, you may be getting slow progress, okay, but no progress is different than slow progress. But I would also do this. Start on our supplements. And what I see is kids who do therapy and kids who do therapies and our supplements, far better results, okay? Get the folinic acid in there. Get the amino acids in there, okay? Work on your gut infections and watch if that makes speech therapy better, because we're making the brain better to learn, okay? I got to give the brain the nutrients it needs to learn before you teach me. Kristen, we need one of these podcasts for older kids. Easton's 13. I cannot wait for our appointment on the 6th. I am excited to meet up with you. Yeah, we'll often, or sometimes we'll do a podcast on hormones and puberty. Sometimes we'll do it on pleasuring oneself, which happens at that age, awkward to talk about, but it's part of life. I think other than that, everything's pretty similar, when we're talking about gut infections and behaviors and language and genetics and all that stuff is pretty similar regardless of the age. I think the things we need to talk about for our teenagers are puberty, behaviors. We'll go with that, puberty and behaviors. Because I got a 13-year-old. Oh, there's behaviors. Amon, we're using a laxative. Can we use it for constipation? Yes, that sounds fine. Sherry, it would be great if Dr. Fry can be a guest or Dr. O'Hara. You know what? I would love that. Dr. O'Hara kind of retired, so she's not around anymore. I'd love to get Dr. Fry on. I hope he would do it if I asked. We had Dr. Usman on a couple times, which is fun. I got to get Temple Grandin on. We had her on once. Got to get back. I get to be on stage with Temple Grandin at Taka this year. I'm excited. I maybe was not supposed to announce that. Yeah, that might be a secret. Shh, quiet. Snigda, my child doesn't have any sensory issues yet. He turns 3 next month. Could it pop up later? Yeah, but something has to trigger it. It's not like it just randomly comes, right? There's always a trigger. What is that trigger? Usually infections. Right, Mary Ellis. Hey, doc, besides the folic acid, your other products just show a general dose. Is it the same for a child versus an older child or an adult? Yeah, I would use more for an older person or a larger person. But everybody has a different response. So with everybody, regardless of size, regardless of weight, regardless of age, start low, work your way up, and use what's best. Everything's Goldilocks. Valerie, hey doc, my son bites everything, looks to the side of his eyes. He bites everything, look at his gut, help his poop, look for a gut infection. The side eye thing, that's mitochondria. Get on our mitochondrial supplements like Mitomax or ATP. Sherry, does cerebrofolate deficiency cause anxiety and panic attacks in teens? It can. Sure can. How, you ask? Well, folic acid, folinic acid, methylfolate are necessary for the production of brain chemicals like serotonin. So you don't have enough serotonin, yeah, you're going to be anxious and have panic attacks. So there are multiple causes for that, but yeah, the cerebrofolate deficiency can be one of them. Sherry, can the yeast mold bundle be taken without the grapefruit seed extract? Yes, but you have to switch to another antimicrobial like the colloidal silver or something else that'll kill the bugs. Rosa, hey doc, I almost finished my first bottle of fulvic acid in the gut binder. I see a lot of progress, amazing success. He has never had no behavioral problems and hyperactivity. So I'm asking, how many bottles should I continue with? I would, if it's working, keep doing it. For another 6, 12 months, maybe longer. If you find something that's working and it sounds to be working a lot, I see the words amazing process and no behavior problems on the gut binder and fulvic acid and other spectrum awakening supplements, keep it up. Okay? Maybe we do it for another 6 months, at least. Maven, what do you think about leucovorin injections? Getting it into the body is the same regardless. Savannah, if I did a notes test and a stool test, what test would we recommend next? It's my opinion that the most important testing for our kids, organic acid testing, oat test, stool test, and genetic analysis. When I say genetic analysis, I mean a microarray and a whole exome sequence. You can get that on our website. You can get that with your doctor, okay? But that's what you want. James and Nia. Does folinic acid with the right dosage help with calmness? Sometimes, but not consistently. I would look at supplements like our Common Cool, but I would definitely look into gut infections. That's the major cause of behaviors. Ramona, may I ask you which MTHFR do you give? Is it from Spectrum Awakening? I'm assuming you're asking Francesco. Share, hey doc, can I give fulvic acid without gut binder? Yes, you can. Fulvic acid is a detox. It's not going to be killing gut bugs. Wanda, my grandson rarely poops. You got to get him pooping. Try our brown log train. Try magnesium. Mary Ellis, brown log train works amazing for constipation. It truly does. Autumn, are there typical side effects for mitochondrial supplements? Hyperactivity. Hyperactivity is probably the biggest one. Feroza just answered the question to Savannah about the next tests. And she mentioned genetic tests, which I agree with. But she said Fragile X and a microarray, which I agree with, but you also want the whole exome sequence. Okay? You want all three of those. Fragile X, microarray, whole exome. Autumn, can you take brown log train every day? Sure. Sure can. Sheila, what do you suggest before bedtime to calm an autistic 10-year-old? Super serotonin support. I like that better than the Common Cool. Lauren, best stool test? So we have 3 stool tests on our website. One from Genova, one from Mosaic that used to be Great Plains, one from GI Map. I like the test from Genova best because the Mosaic test does not analyze probiotics. The GI map does not analyze prebiotics. The Genova test analyzes it all. Probiotics, prebiotics, infections, digestion, inflammation, all that stuff. So I like the Genova test better. They are all very, very similar tests, okay? And actually formulated and created by the same guy. Hey, peace, Tony. But I like the Genova because it includes more testing, period. Adriana, all improvements on Francesco are so amazing in there with Spectrum Awakening. I love it. We got it. We need these kids better. It's possible. Steffi, if we try combining folinic acid with methylfolate, we talked about that. Sheila, what's the max dose for Common Cool? I don't know if there is a max dose. If you want to add more, try it. Yay, Doc, my child's organic acid test shows low in GABA. Can I get power and focus? Sure. Who can not get power and focus? I guess anybody who just gets hyperactive from it because of the B vitamins. All right, Snigda, my son's been on folinic acid, B12, omega-3, magnesium. Should I up the dose of folinic? Yeah, I would. You're on 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is 5 milligrams. I would up that. Maybe add our serotonin supplement as well. All right. Sheila, what do you have for OCD? I would try our super serotonin, and I would try NAC. We carry both. Jeannie has a detox foot bath. Try it out. Those do work slowly, but they work. Share, my daughter has a rooting reflex issue. How can I fix it? I'm not sure. Ask your OTs. Steffi, do you think glutathione should be supplemented? I do. It tastes gross, but I do. Aliona, is oil of oregano safe for a 3-year-old? In general, yes. Anita, hey doc, I'd like to know when you're going to make the gummies. I said end of March. Yeah, I did say that. So here's the status. We are making folinic acid in gummies. They're going to be 10 milligram gummies, and I'm really excited about this. They were scheduled to be done in March, which is why I told you that. And I hate making promises that don't that don't pan out. What happened was the FDA visited the production facility who was making the gummies. And they said, you can't make this, that's leucovorin. And we said, no, that's folinic acid. It's a vitamin that's been around for 70 years. And they said, that's leucovorin. And so that factory stopped making it. So we had to switch over to another factory who'd be willing to make it. So we want to make sure folinic acid stays available as a generic over-the-counter vitamin. We do not want it to become a prescription-only thing, okay? This kind of happened, Splinter, where did I get that? We had this happen a few years ago with NAC. NAC is a protein, it's amino acid. And the FDA tried to turn it into pharmaceutical only. That didn't go through. We were all worried about it. Amazon took it off their website for a while. But the FDA decided not to, or they didn't for whatever reason. Whether they decided not to or the court case told them they couldn't, I'm not sure. But, people are trying to, make natural things into prescriptions and then get rid of the generic so they get all the sales. And I really don't want that to happen to folinic acid at all. So hopefully the gummy soon. What is it? Mid-April, end of April. I'll probably say early May. I just talked to my producer about it this morning. So crossing our fingers. Capri, my only worry is that your kid gets the gummy bottle and eats it all. You got to keep that stuff, away from the kids. Capri, my 2-year-old's constantly picking at toys, chewing, biting, animated objects. He gets angry at the drop of a hat. Gut infection, Capri. Sheila, red light lasers and infrared again. I just don't have enough experience. Bella from California. What do you think about cord blood of a sibling? I would keep it. I don't know what you could do with it. I don't know if that'd be work for stem cells or not. I just don't know. I don't know much about the therapy, but I don't think there's any harm in keeping it, except the money. Jeannie, I just did relay therapy this past weekend. No effect whatsoever. People talking about reflexes. Selma said, shouldn't be this expensive. This is hard to get our kids help. Trust me, I know. We try to keep everything as affordable as we can, but man, the prices just keep going up, whether it's the labs, whether it's the nutrients and, the vitamins. We make everything here in the U.S. We use U.S. ingredients, so we aren't affected by the tariffs, which has been nice. We've been able to keep our prices the same after all this tariff tax stuff. But I know it's rough. I feel you. I feel you. All right. Sheila asked, what's the name of that book from Brain Balance? It's called Disconnected Kids. Selma, always grateful for you. No problem. All right. I'm going to wrap up here because of time. And yeah, I think I love that you guys are here. And for those of you listening and not live, I love that you're trying to help your kid, right? And our pediatricians don't know anything. They weren't trained. I don't blame them for it. They just weren't taught how to help. Okay. They were just taught to send you to therapy. They're not aware of the thousands of scientific studies that are published on ways to help our kids. They aren't aware about the over 75 research studies on folinic acid and autism. And so where do you find that info? And it's really tough to go. And so what you see is what's online and what's on social media, which is half good information and half just people selling stuff, and are they doing something good or are they not? It's so hard to tell. So I wanted to take this podcast, kind of walk you through things that are popular, things that our patients are using, things that I get questions on, and kind of give you my 2 cents about it and what I do with my patients. So if you still wonder, hey, where should I begin or what should I do next? I can't emphasize enough. Download our free ebooks. Okay, they walk you through some of this stuff. So I hope that helps. I hope these, answering these questions help. Next week, I'm going to be excited. We're actually launching a new product. We're going to be talking about lion's mane and neuroplasticity. So that's next week. So we're going to be launching our new lion's mane product, which I'm really excited about. So stay tuned. Thank you for doing everything you can to help your kids. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing this information. You've got to inspire another family. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. Hold on, coupon of the weekend. Once more, I know it's backwards if you're watching it live. Autism 20. Autism 20 gets you 20% off your supplements and lab tests all weekend long. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.